Officials think this could be the largest gang takedown in history in the borough of Queens.
Like an insidious disease, violence and cruelty infect our planet, spreading further with each passing day. According to statistics, over 400,000 people fall victim to intentional homicides every year. In some bustling metropolises, gang violence has become so pervasive that the police do not even respond to what is happening. Join us as we show you 20 of the most dangerous cities in the world. Number 20. Detroit, Michigan. In the heart of the American Midwest stands Detroit, Michigan, once a powerhouse of industry and a symbol of prosperity. As Motor City, Detroit was the automotive industry's cradle, home to giants like Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler. Detroit boomed in the early 20th century as workers flocked to its lucrative assembly line jobs. However, Detroit's industrial dominance waned. Foreign competition in the 1950s and 60s eroded the market share of American automakers. The oil crisis of the 1970s compounded the problem, triggering plant closures and mass layoffs. As jobs vanished, Detroit's population plummeted. From a peak of over 1.8 million in the 1950s, it has dwindled to just over 700,000 today. This decline left abandoned factories, vacant lots, and decaying infrastructure, transforming neighborhoods into desolate spaces. But perhaps nowhere in Detroit has the impact of this decline been felt more acutely than in the Fiskhorn area. Once a thriving working-class neighborhood, Fiskhorn has become a virtual war zone, with rates of crime that are truly staggering. FBI data reveals a robbery rate 8 times the national average. Even more shocking is Fiskhorn's murder rate, over 10 times the national average. And the violence doesn't stop there. The rate of assault in Fiskhorn is also disturbingly high, with women and girls facing a constant threat of rape and other forms of violence. Children growing up in this neighborhood are exposed to violence and trauma on a daily basis, with many witnessing shootings, stabbings, and other acts of brutality before they even reach their teenage years. The result is a generation of young people who have been robbed of their innocence and their hope for the future. Number 19. Caracas, Venezuela. In the heart of Caracas, Venezuela, 2 neighborhoods have become synonymous with the country's descent into chaos and violence: Cota 905 and Petare. In Cota 905, the stark divide between rich and poor is on full display, with wealthy residents traveling in armored cars to protect themselves from the rampant crime that plagues the streets. Meanwhile, just a short distance away, the people of Petare live in abject poverty, with little hope of escape from the cycle of violence that has consumed their community. Ruthless gangs control the streets, preying on the vulnerable and desperate. The murder rate here is a staggering 55 per 100,000 residents, making it one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world. For young people growing up in this environment, joining a gang often seems like the only path to survival, perpetuating a cycle of crime and violence that has torn the community apart. In Petare, the situation is even more dire. This sprawling slum has become a lawless no-man's land, where the police are powerless to maintain order. Constant shootouts, stabbings, and thefts have become a way of life for the people of Petare, who live in constant fear of becoming the next victim. Since the death of President Hugo Chavez in 2013, the situation has only gotten worse, with murders up 50% and kidnappings soaring by 120%. For teenagers in Petare, joining a gang has become a status symbol, a way to gain respect and power in a world where education and opportunity are little more than a distant dream. For ordinary citizens looking for a normal life, surviving here is impossible. Number 18. St. Louis. Across the globe, in the heart of the United States, lies another city besieged by crime. St. Louis, Missouri, home to the notorious Peabody-Darst neighborhood, has earned a reputation as one of the most dangerous places in the country. With a crime rate a staggering 1,100% above the national average, this area has become a virtual war zone. Gang activity and the drug trade run rampant in Peabody-Darst, fueling a cycle of violence that has left the community reeling. Rival factions clash in broad daylight, their bullets tearing through the streets with reckless abandon. Innocent bystanders, caught in the crossfire, become collateral damage in a war they never asked to be a part of. With a rate of 66 homicides per 100,000 residents, the people of Peabody-Darst live in a constant state of fear, never knowing when the next gunshot will ring out. Children are taught to hit the ground at the first sign of trouble, their innocence shattered by the harsh realities of life in this neighborhood. The police, outgunned and outnumbered, struggle to maintain order, their efforts often feeling like a band-aid on a gaping wound. Number 17. Kingston, Jamaica. In Kingston, Jamaica, the birthplace of reggae music, lies a neighborhood that has fallen from grace. Trenchtown, once a vibrant community that gave rise to musical legends like Bob Marley, has become a shadow of its former self. Now, it is a place where crime and violence reign supreme, and the streets are stained with the blood of the innocent. The sound of gunfire has replaced the melodic rhythms that once filled the air. In June 2021, 2 local residents were brutally gunned down in a drive-by shooting, their lives snuffed out in a senseless act of violence. This tragedy is just one of many that have become all too common in Trenchtown, a place where life is cheap and death is always just a heartbeat away. In 2018, it was estimated that 169 people were murdered per 100,000 inhabitants in Kingston. In 2022, Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness declared a state of emergency for certain regions of Jamaica, including Kingston, because of rising crime rates. Residents live in a constant state of fear, never knowing when they might become the next victim of the gun violence that plagues their community. The police, understaffed and overwhelmed, struggle to keep the peace, their efforts often feeling like a futile gesture in the face of such overwhelming odds. Number 16. Rio de Janeiro. In Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the sprawling favela of Complexo do Alemão has become a symbol of the city's struggle with crime and violence. This vast slum, home to over 60,000 people, is controlled by heavily armed drug traffickers who rule with an iron fist. Daily gang shootouts have become a way of life for the residents of this community, who live in constant fear of being caught in the crossfire. The police, in an attempt to combat the rampant crime, have launched numerous raids into the favela, but these operations have often resulted in high casualties and little lasting impact. In one particularly brutal incident, a police raid on May 2021 left 28 people dead, including a police officer. The following July, another raid claimed the lives of 19 more people, underscoring the deadly stakes of the conflict. The people of Complexo do Alemão are trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty and violence, with little hope of escape. The drug trade offers one of the few economic opportunities in the favela, but it comes at a terrible cost. Young men, lured by the promise of easy money and power, are quickly swallowed up by the gangs, their lives cut short by the brutal realities of the drug war. Number 15. Scampia, Naples. In the suburbs of Naples, Italy, lies Scampia, a community that has been ravaged by the influence of organized crime. This once promising suburb, built in the 1980s with the intention of providing affordable housing and recreational areas for its residents, has instead become a stronghold of the Camorra, one of Italy's most notorious mafia clans. Under the control of the powerful Dello clan, Scampia became the largest open-air drug market in Europe, with the mafia ruling over the streets with impunity. The clan's reign of terror was marked by a brutal turf war in 2004, which left a trail of bodies in its wake and marked the beginning of a new era of violence in the suburb. As the years passed, Scampia descended further into chaos. The high-rise buildings that once housed families fell into disrepair, becoming little more than drug dens and hideouts for the clan's foot soldiers. Unemployment soared, leaving young men with few options but to join the ranks of the Camorra. Armed teenage gangs roamed the streets, enforcing the clan's will with brutal efficiency. Number 14. Tijuana. Just south of the US-Mexico border lies Tijuana, a city once known for its vibrant culture and thriving tourism industry. But beneath the surface, a far more sinister reality lurks. With a murder rate of 105 per 100,000 residents, Tijuana has become one of the most dangerous cities in the world, a place where life is cheap and death is always just a heartbeat away. At the heart of Tijuana's troubles are the notorious districts of Camino Verde, Zona Norte, and Sanchez Taboada. These areas, controlled by ruthless gangs involved in drug and human trafficking, have become virtual no-go zones for law enforcement. Contract killings are a daily occurrence, with rival factions battling for control of the lucrative drug trade. The people of Tijuana live in a constant state of fear, never knowing when they might become caught in the crossfire of a gang war. The police, outgunned and outnumbered, struggle to maintain order, their efforts often feeling like a futile gesture in the face of such overwhelming violence. The once thriving tourist industry has all but collapsed, as visitors stay away in droves, unwilling to risk their lives for a chance to experience the city's charms. Number 13. Hillbrow, Johannesburg. In the heart of Johannesburg, South Africa, lies a neighborhood that has become synonymous with crime, poverty, and desperation. Hillbrow, once a thriving community, has been ravaged by decades of neglect and overcrowding, transforming it into a sprawling slum where danger lurks around every corner. The seeds of Hillbrow's decline were sown in the 1980s when a massive influx of people from rural areas flooded into the city in search of work. But as the population swelled to over 70,000 people crammed into just 1 square kilometer, the lack of jobs and infrastructure quickly took its toll. The middle class fled, leaving behind a community mired in poverty and despair. Today, Hillbrow is a place where the rule of law has all but collapsed. Gangs and criminal syndicates operate with impunity, preying on the vulnerable and desperate. The streets are littered with trash and the detritus of human misery, while the air is thick with the stench of sewage and despair. For the people of Hillbrow, life is a daily struggle for survival, with little hope of escape from the cycle of violence and poverty that has consumed their community. Number 12. Ciudad Bolívar, Venezuela. In the heart of Venezuela, in the state of Bolívar, lies the city of Ciudad Bolívar, a place of stunning natural beauty and rich cultural heritage. But beneath the surface of this bustling metropolis, a darker reality lurks, one marked by rising crime and violence that threatens the very fabric of society. For years, Ciudad Bolívar was known for its thriving economy, fueled by exports of timber, diamonds, gold, and other natural resources. But in recent years, as the country has grappled with political instability and economic collapse, the city has seen a surge in criminal activity, with rival gangs battling for control of the lucrative black market trade. The impact of the violence on the people of Ciudad Bolívar has been devastating. In the past 3 years alone, the homicide rate has skyrocketed to 69 per 100,000 residents, making it one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Thefts, robberies, and muggings are commonplace, with many of these incidents ending in tragedy as criminals resort to lethal force to get what they want. For ordinary residents, the constant threat of violence has had a chilling effect on daily life. After sunset, the streets of Ciudad Bolívar are largely deserted, with people choosing to stay indoors rather than risk becoming the next victim of a violent crime. Even during the day, there is a palpable sense of fear and unease, as people go about their business with one eye always on the lookout for danger. Number 11. Fortaleza, Brazil. On the northeastern coast of Brazil, in the state of Ceará, lies the city of Fortaleza, a place of stunning beaches, vibrant culture, and untold human suffering. For decades, this metropolis of over 4 million people has been grappling with a surge in violent crime, fueled by a toxic mix of drug trafficking, inequality, and institutional dysfunction. The roots of Fortaleza's crime problem can be traced back to the 1990s, when the city emerged as a key transit point for cocaine and other illegal drugs flowing from South America to Europe and beyond. As the drug trade expanded, so did the power and influence of the criminal organizations that controlled it, setting the stage for a new era of violence and instability. In the early 2000s, the situation in Fortaleza reached a tipping point as rival drug factions began battling for control of the city's lucrative narcotics market. The result was a surge in homicides, with the murder rate increasing by a staggering 300 to 400% between 2000 and 2010 alone. For ordinary Fortaleza residents, the impact of the violence has been devastating. In addition to the high homicide rate, which reached 69 per 100,000 residents in recent years, the city has also seen a surge in other violent crimes, including robberies, assaults, and kidnappings. Many residents live in constant fear, afraid to leave their homes or send their children to school. Number 10. Felipe Kamarra, Natal. In the coastal city of Natal, Brazil, the tourist district of Felipe Kamarra has become a virtual war zone, where the sound of gunfire echoes through the streets with alarming regularity. This once peaceful neighborhood, known for its stunning beaches and vibrant nightlife, has been transformed into a bloody battleground, where rival gangs clash in a never-ending cycle of violence. Over the past 2 years alone, Felipe Kamarra has witnessed a staggering 160 murders, with innocent bystanders often caught in the crossfire. In 2017, a brutal prison gang fight claimed the lives of 10 inmates, underscoring the depth of the violence that has consumed this community. For the people of Felipe Kamarra, life has become a daily gamble, with the constant threat of violence hanging over their heads like a dark cloud. The police, understaffed and outgunned, struggle to maintain order, while the gangs operate with near impunity. The once thriving tourist industry has all but collapsed, as visitors stay away in droves, unwilling to risk their lives for a chance to experience the city's charms. Number 9. San Pedro Sula, Honduras. In the heart of San Pedro Sula, Honduras, lies the neighborhood of Rio Blanco, a place where violence and despair have become a way of life. This impoverished community has been ravaged by the scourge of gang violence, with rival factions battling for control of the lucrative drug trade that fuels the local economy. The people of Rio Blanco live in constant fear. The sound of gunfire and the sight of bodies lying in the streets have become all too common. The gangs, armed with a frightening array of weapons, engage in a never-ending cycle of theft, carjacking, and murder, leaving a trail of broken lives in their wake. With a staggering 85 murders per 100,000 residents, Rio Blanco has become one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the world. The high rate of legal gun ownership in Honduras only adds to the carnage, with over 80% of homicide victims falling to the bullet. For the people of Rio Blanco, life has become a daily struggle for survival, with little hope of escape from the violence that has consumed their community. Number 8. Feira de Santana. In the heart of Brazil lies Feira de Santana, a city grappling with a harrowing reality. With a population of over 600,000, this bustling metropolis has earned the dubious distinction of having the highest homicide rate in the country. In 2022 alone, a staggering 67 out of every 100,000 residents fell victim to murder, painting a grim picture of the city's struggle with violence. But the horrors don't end there. Feira de Santana is plagued by a relentless wave of assault, robbery, and theft, leaving its citizens in a constant state of fear. The streets, once vibrant with life, now echo with the whispers of danger lurking around every corner. Residents clutch their belongings tightly, knowing that at any moment they could become the next target of a ruthless criminal. The authorities, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the problem, seem powerless to stem the tide of violence. The police force, understaffed and under-equipped, fights a losing battle against the criminal elements that have taken root in the city. With each passing day, the death toll rises, and the people of Feira de Santana are left to wonder if there will ever be an end to the bloodshed. Number 7. Ciudad Juarez. Just across the border from El Paso, Texas, lies the Mexican city of Ciudad Juarez, a place that has become synonymous with the country's brutal drug war. This sprawling metropolis, home to over 1.5 million people, has long been a key transit point for drugs moving from South America to the United States, making it a battleground for rival cartels vying for control of the lucrative trade. In the early 2000s, Ciudad Juarez earned the dubious distinction of being the most dangerous city in the world, with a staggering homicide rate fueled by the bloody turf wars between the Sinaloa and Juarez cartels. The violence reached its peak around 2010 when the Mexican government deployed the military to the city in an attempt to restore order. But the increased military presence only seemed to make matters worse, with widespread reports of human rights abuses and extrajudicial killings. Today, Ciudad Juarez remains a city on the edge, where the rule of law is tenuous at best. The cartels continue to operate with impunity, using the city as a base for their smuggling operations and engaging in brutal acts of violence to protect their turf. For the people of Ciudad Juarez, life has become a daily struggle for survival, with the constant threat of violence hanging over their heads like a dark cloud. Number 6. Cape Town. In the legislative capital of South Africa, Cape Town, the breathtaking beauty of the city's natural surroundings belies a darker reality. This picturesque metropolis, home to over 4.6 million people, has become one of the most dangerous cities in the world, with a homicide rate that reached a staggering 63 per 100,000 residents in 2020. The roots of Cape Town's crime problem are complex and deep-seated, with poverty, inequality, and corruption all playing a role. In recent years, the city has seen a surge in gang activity and drug-related violence, as criminal syndicates battle for control of the lucrative drug trade. The police, understaffed and poorly equipped, struggle to maintain order, while the justice system is plagued by inefficiency and corruption. For Cape Town residents, the impact of the violence has been devastating. Many residents have lost loved ones to the bloodshed, while others live in constant fear of becoming the next victim. The situation has become so dire that many South Africans are choosing to leave the country altogether, seeking safety and security elsewhere. In a recent survey, expats ranked South Africa as the second most dangerous country in the world, behind only Afghanistan. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Imagine vast, unfinished skyscrapers casting long shadows across empty streets. This is the reality of China's ghost buildings, sprawling developments built for a population that never came. But these silent landscapes aren't always deserted. A dark life thrives here. In one ghost town within the city of Datong, unfinished skyscrapers became breeding grounds for crime. Gangs took root, leading to a surge in violence and ultimately turf wars. With authorities seemingly uninterested in these derelict areas, police presence is minimal. Easy availability of guns and drugs has only worsened the situation. The crime rate skyrocketed, and for normal civilians, surviving here is impossible. What do you think about this? Should authorities do more to reclaim these ghost buildings? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. On the northern coast of Australia lies the nation of Papua New Guinea, a land of stunning natural beauty and rich cultural diversity. But amidst the lush rainforests and pristine beaches, a darker reality lurks. In the capital, Port Moresby, crime and violence have become a way of life, with rates of serious offenses reaching staggering heights. For the people of Port Moresby, the threat of violence is a constant presence. Assaults and thefts are commonplace, with machetes and firearms being the weapons of choice for many criminals. The police, understaffed and overwhelmed, struggle to maintain order, leaving many residents feeling vulnerable and unprotected. The roots of Port Moresby's crime problem are complex, but poverty and unemployment are major contributing factors. With few opportunities for legitimate work, many young people turn to crime as a means of survival. The result has been a surge in gang activity, with rival groups fighting for control of the city's lucrative drug trade and other criminal enterprises. The impact of the violence on the city has been devastating. Since 2004, Port Moresby has been ranked as the worst livable capital city in the world, with a reputation for lawlessness and danger that has driven away foreign investment and stunted economic growth. For women and girls, the situation is particularly dire, with high rates of sexual assault and rape making it one of the most dangerous places in the world to be female. Number 4. Mogadishu, Somalia. On the eastern coast of Africa, in the war-torn nation of Somalia, lies the city of Mogadishu, a place where the scars of conflict run deep. For nearly 3 decades, this once thriving metropolis has been caught in the crosshairs of a bloody civil war, as rival factions battle for control of the country, with clan rivalries, political instability, and religious extremism all playing a role. But for Mogadishu's people, the impact of the violence has been devastating. The city has become a virtual no-go zone, with armed militias roaming the streets and civilians caught in the middle of the fighting. The human cost of the conflict has been staggering, with countless lives lost and many more forever altered by the violence. War crimes, including torture, rape, and summary executions, have become all too common as the rule of law has collapsed and impunity reigns supreme. Despite the challenges, the people of Mogadishu have shown remarkable resilience in the face of adversity. Many have fled the city, seeking refuge in neighboring countries or further afield. But for those who remain, life goes on, even amid the chaos and destruction. Number 3. Damascus. In the heart of the Middle East, in the ancient land of Syria, lies the city of Damascus, a place where the weight of history and the brutality of war collide. For centuries, this city has been a crossroads of culture and commerce, a melting pot of religions and ethnicities. But in recent years, it has become a symbol of the country's descent into chaos and conflict. The roots of the Syrian civil war are complex, with political repression, economic inequality, and sectarian tensions all playing a role. But for Damascus residents, the impact of the violence has been devastating. The city has become a battlefield, with rebel groups and government forces battling for control of key neighborhoods and infrastructure. The human cost of the conflict has been staggering, with over 40,000 people killed in Damascus alone since the war began in 2011. Millions more have been displaced, forced to flee their homes and seek refuge in neighboring countries or further afield. For those left in Damascus, life has become a daily struggle for survival. The constant threat of violence, coupled with the collapse of the economy and the destruction of critical infrastructure, has left many residents facing poverty, hunger, and despair. Number 2. Durban, South Africa. On the eastern coast of South Africa lies the city of Durban, a place where the beauty of the Indian Ocean stands in stark contrast to the violence and despair that plague its streets. Since the 1990s, Durban has been grappling with a surge in violent crime and homicide, fueled by a toxic mix of poverty, unemployment, and drug trafficking. As a key transit point for narcotics moving in and out of sub-Saharan Africa, Durban has become a magnet for criminal syndicates and drug cartels. The city's strategic location has also made it a hub for illegal immigration, with thousands of people from across the continent passing through on their way to other destinations. The result has been a surge in gang activity and violence, with rival factions battling for control of the drug trade and other criminal enterprises. The police, understaffed and overwhelmed, struggle to maintain order, while the justice system is plagued by corruption and inefficiency. For the people of Durban, life has become a daily struggle for survival, with the constant threat of violence and crime hanging over their heads. Number 1. Ciudad Victoria. In the northern Mexican state of Tamaulipas, on the banks of the San Marcos River, lies the city of Ciudad Victoria, a place where the promise of progress and prosperity has been drowned out by the sound of gunfire and the cries of the dying. For years, this city of over 350,000 people has been caught in the crosshairs of a brutal conflict between rival drug cartels and the Mexican security forces, with ordinary citizens paying the price in blood and tears. The roots of Ciudad Victoria's crime problem can be traced back to the early 2000s, when the Gulf Cartel, one of Mexico's most powerful drug trafficking organizations, began using the city as a key transit point for smuggling cocaine, heroin, and other illegal drugs into the United States. As the cartel's power and influence grew, so too did the violence, with rival factions battling for control of the city's lucrative narcotics trade. In recent years, the situation in Ciudad Victoria has only gotten worse, with the emergence of new criminal organizations, including the notorious Zetas cartel, and an increase in the brutality and savagery of the violence. Today, the city is one of the most dangerous places in the world, with a staggering homicide rate of 86 per 100,000 residents and a pervasive sense of fear and insecurity that permeates every aspect of daily life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.